In the final episode of the Thailand miniseries, I continue where I left off, in the Konsitamarat's ancient past. After that, I head to Krabi's favorite hotspot, Railay Beach, and end my trip on a high note, celebrating the most controversial of all Thailand's pastimes, the Vegetarian Festival. While Hindu temples can be found in the Konsitamarat, and the Muslim call to prayer can be heard all over town, this was once the epicenter of Buddhist study in the region, during the Sivachaya period, dating back nearly 1700 years. Unquestionably, the most famous temple in southern Thailand is Wat Pramata. Its full name is Wat Pramatat Waramahamihan. With a land area of more than 5 hectares, rivaling that of Wat Po in Bangkok, Wat Pramata stands as the single largest Buddhist temple in the region. It's also one of the oldest, founded by Queen Hemchala nearly 2,000 years ago. She and her son are immortalized in bronze statues at the entrance of the stupas. Garudas, Nagas, lions, Hindu-influenced sculptures of demons or yaks, and many other artifacts are stored like a museum closet along the staircase leading up to the main chedi. Some of these artifacts are as old as the temple itself. Towering over the veritable garden of stupas, the Pra Buramata was built in the 13th century by King Sri Dhammasokaraja. Dhammasokaraja actually rebuilt this temple after its first iteration, as Prince Tamakuman and Queen Hemchala were fabled to have imported the Buddha's tooth right from the skull of Gautama Siddhartha, burying it under the smaller chedi in 291 CE. Its modern version boasts a 700 kilogram solid gold spire directing its energy to the heavens. It's undergone restorations throughout the millennia, however, the first of which was in 1612, and the most recent ended in 1995. No fewer than 158 smaller stupas have been cast over the years that the temple was in its infancy. These were mostly built to house the ashes of the most devoted monks to have served during the temple's original construction. Surrounding buildings were completed over a 500-year period starting at that time. The name of the temple is actually based in Pali and translates to the Great Noble Temple of Great Noble Relics. In fact, much of the town's history is steeped in the very same dialectic history. Konsitamarat in Pali sounds more like Nagara Sri Dhammaraja. Nagara meaning town. Dhamma has several meanings based on its pronunciation, and Raja means great or leader. Dissecting the king's nomenclature, Dhamma Soka Raja, it would mean that the king derived his name from Ashoka, a great Indian Raja. A time-honored tradition is to feed the birds out front and stand in the shade of the Bodhi tree. The tree, by the way, is also said to be a sprout of the original Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India. Being that this was the 3rd lunar month, a ceremony called Hue Pa Kunta was underway. Scores of people wrap a massive length of cloth, or jataka, around the main chedi, several times until it's finally tied in place. In this event, the ceremony concludes with a Wai Kru, or bow of honor. This is performed 3 times, and in unison around the crowd. After patrons tuck the fabric neatly into the chedi, the monk ties it down and prepares it for the next round of devotees to come and pray at the temple. Volunteers can be seen nearby, washing, wrapping, and readying the jataka for new visitors throughout the month-long ceremony. Not only is this far from being the only ancient temple in Nakhon, there are national museums, a bustling nightlife, and tons of other sites to keep you busy. Don't skip this town if you find yourself in the south. And once you're here, grab a songtao, the Thai word for 2 benches, referring to the two benches in the back of a pickup truck, and have them bring you to the market, the temples, and especially the parks.
Nè, sủi mất.
Ok. Ôi.
หายากนะ
โอ้ยเป็นสวยมากนะขอบคุณมากนะครับ
เอาอะไรกันตามสบายนะยูตามสบายนะ
สบายมากขอบคุณมากครับ So the caretaker in this monastery has gotten the key out and let me into this temple. It's called Wat Suan Ban, which means the garden home, the house of the gardens, and it's immaculate. It's unbelievable. It's spectacular. It's beautiful. I don't even know the words to say it. It's like the Sistine Chapel of Buddhist temples. It's really something. All along the walls are these immaculate murals depicting different times. I'm sure they tell a story, and I'll hope to someday get that story, but for now it's really just spectacular looking at it.
สวยไหม
สวยมาก
สวยไม่มีคนทำความสะอาดเลยไง
ที่พี่ที่วัดเป็น100 ปี
เป็นหลายร้อยปีมาแล้ว
The caretaker went on to tell me that Wat Suan Ban was built in 1899 as a Buddhist study center and once included a 5-hectare hill that housed an elephant menagerie. The murals seen here, the lady explained, were by a local Thai instructor. I couldn't make out his name from the lady's accent, but I later found out that it was Ajahn Nab Tichinpong. Ajahn is a term of respect denoting a teacher. In this case, he was a teacher of art and local history. Very cool. And this stuff is all over Nakhon Si Thammarat. I mean, I think this one is pretty unique in that it's got these incredible murals that are obviously painstakingly done, but you know, you just walk around, and if you're walking around on the street and you don't go into a place, you'll see it on the outside and it's cool, but what you see on the inside and the story that it has to tell, it's incredible. There's so much history in these tiny little towns, all the way up to the mid-sized towns all throughout Thailand, and each one of them is incredibly unique and different. Nakhon Si Thammarat, the history here is 1,500 years old just by the Buddhist calendar. Add another 400 or 500 years to that for the Western calendar, and you know, the dynasty having changed hands so many times. I mean, it's like a dramatic, elongated, you know, human lineage type of soap opera, you know, a real life drama, and it's recorded on these walls. It's pretty impressive. Now the largest mural, which is right here, is actually depicting King Rama V over here. King Rama V is the undisputed favorite king of all throughout Thailand. I mean, I've been to the north, south, east, west, the Andaman side, the Pacific side. No matter where you go in Thailand, you're bound to see the picture of Rama V somewhere in someone's house, inside of a shop. It doesn't matter if it's a restaurant or a gas station. You will see this man's face on the wall. He did a lot for Thailand. Of course, the second favorite is the current king, and a philanthropist of many years, and even his daughter. Both his daughters are actually very philanthropic, for a lack of a more diverse word. They have created universities, created educational funds and grants for misfortunate and underprivileged. The environmental type stuff that the prince has undertaken and stuff like that. They're all hugely appreciated by the Thai people. And Rama V preceded the Nakhon kingdom, I believe, by a couple hundred years, or was around during the time of the Nakhon kingdom. And down here in the south, it was just a different dynasty. It wasn't like a different, it wasn't not included in the kingdom of Siam. It was just a different dynasty, I believe, that ruled down here. I'm sure Rama V presided over that. So, inside the temple, there is a funeral going on, and when I showed up, they keep feeding me. I kind of stumbled in. I was just hoping to film the outside of the temple, and apparently there's a funeral going on. And as soon as I walked up, all of the dogs started barking like crazy. Barking like crazy, and announced my presence in a very, what I thought was an unfitting way, and I was pretty upset about it. But everybody looked over from their prayers and their chants, and they were like, "All right, bring him in, let's feed him." So they've given me spicy curry soup fish with pineapple. This is like a fried chicken patty, and they've also thrown some pork at me on a stick. These are dove's eggs in a sort of a duck sauce mix, and it's got little pieces of pork in here as well. And then this is kind of like a rice custard mix. And it's very good. It's like a sweet version of rice, and then they give you sticky rice with it on top of that. It's delicious. And right now what you're hearing is the monks leading a chant to help the past spirit into the right place. This is real Thailand. This is not some manufactured thing. This is not being on display for tourists. This is the real experience. It's incredibly moving. These people are incredibly nice and welcoming and warm. And every time I interact with them, I'm just moved. It's amazing. Thank you. I'll try. I will try. She's saying, finish it, eat it.
อร่อย
อร่อย
ชิมเลย
อร่อยมาก
อร่อยมาก
just arrived at Ao Nong Beach, is part of Krabi, just at the edge of Krabi. But really, it's a cool beach. It's nice. It's good to like sunbathe and all that stuff. But the best way to do Ao Nong and the Krabi area is to go out to the Rai Beach, which has a lagoon and a climbing spot, an overlooking area, and even some climbing. So, should be fun.
There are a few people that visit Thailand and leave with the opinion that Krabi province is not the most beautiful place in Thailand. But that's because the stories they bring back to their friends at the School for the Blind mostly talk about the disorienting boat rides. And that part's true. To get to most places in this province, you'll need to charter a water taxi. People flock here in surprisingly small numbers to gain relatively easy access to world-class, Hollywood-quality vistas. And it doesn't stop there. Lagoon hikes, monkey parks, and what appear to be endless flat beaches out the windows of hut-style chalets are just a few of the options you'll see in Krabi's shortest boat ride, Rai Lay. If all you have is 1 week to get away, and your idea of a vacation is relaxing on the beach, look no further. Krabi is the provincial capital though, so if you're not satisfied by Rai Lay, head out to Koh Lanta to the south, Koh Phi Phi to the southwest, and Ao Nong and Thap Ra Nong to the west. Throughout the province, there are more than 150 islands to see and explore. My experience on these islands is quite extensive, but rather than make an entire episode dedicated just to Krabi's paradise beaches, I figured I'd offer a glimpse of the island life, the majestic views, island gourmet, and the unique geography that you'll find throughout the entire area. December to March are your best times to visit for weather, but for smaller crowds, lower prices, and the best bungalow availability, June to November is your window to show up. While it's generally the rainy season, almost everything on the island is nearly 50% off its high season prices. For the budget-conscious traveler, you can actually stay in Krabi, where there's always availability and cheaper prices, and just take a short water shuttle over to whichever islands you like best during the day. For those wanting to fall asleep to the sound of crashing waves outside their chalets, there are also some discounts offered through organized boat tours. Just ask around until you find captains with connections.
Well, here I am on Rai Lay Beach. It's not the most posh place in Thailand, but it's a bit rich for my blood. But if that's not your thing, you definitely still have to come out because there's a hike back through the monkey trail and then my favorite part, which is the lagoon. Okay, so I've ordered the crocodile at the beach here. So, is this it? Yeah? Can I get that? Alright, so shish kebab is beach favorite, and Krabi is no exception. But this will be the first time I've ever had crocodile, so that's going to be fun. It's got kind of like a spicy chili mix. Comes with a baked potato, corn, and some other veggies and stuff that came off the skewer. And the way they do it is they have the skewer first, and you just pick what you want, and then they cook it up from there. And the way they cook it up generally is they just put it right on the sizzler. Guy cooks it right there in front of you, brings it over to the table. It's got kind of like a fried look to it. We'll see how it tastes. It's kind of a light meat. It's got a lot of seasoning on it, so perhaps it's not terribly authentic. I'm not sure what authentic crocodile is supposed to taste like. But... Oh wow. It's excellent with it's actually more tomato than spice. Not really sure what it tastes like. Other than the spices, it, interestingly enough, is kind of bland. It's very thin strips too. Very good. So you can pick up the crocodile kebabs, or the crocabobs, for about 200 to 250 baht at pretty much any restaurant. That's about 6 to 750. So it's actually quite expensive for a meal in Thailand, but went in crabby. Okay, so as is the case with most impromptu tats, the best part of the sales pitch is actually putting it on you. And so I've wanted koi for quite a while. And so looks like we're going to do some bamboo tattooing, some real, authentic native Thai tattoos. Actually with Shi, who is actually from Nakhon Si Thammarat. He lives here, but his family's back in Nakhon. He's going back tomorrow. Maybe even give me a lift back home, but so I figure I'm gonna do it real style.
Bamboo, fucking good.
Bamboo fucking good.
What you mean about when you do, you can do this and make you and have energy and lucky. Oh, I protection. Yeah.
There are too many.
From your boy.
This one is yours.
Feels much different than normal tattooing. Obviously, it's not the needle dragging across the skin. It covers a greater area, much less time, very fast, which is good as far as I'm concerned. It's a hell of a salesman. I didn't come here thinking I was going to get a tattoo, but the idea is that once they draw it on there and you can see what it looks like, it's actually quite a inspiring view. You know, you get to see what it's actually going to look like for the most part. But, yeah, it's very easy to do, very easy to take the paint. Not that it doesn't hurt quite a bit, but it's just a different feel. So it's native ink. It's made here in Thailand, and they mix it with olive oil. I have no idea why.
What about? There are too many.
Most of those have 4 letters. Actually, I moved up to 7. Fuck you. Oh, you know, it's not every day, but it's not like it's to see his boy become a man.
Alright, so here I am at Railay East, and it's kind of like the mid-range section of the Railays. There's Railay East and West, and there's like backpackers and rich resorts and such. But if you come over to the Railay Princess Resort and Spa, you'll find this little trailhead here. It's about a minute or so down the trailhead to get to the climbing point where you go up that mountain right there, which is the viewpoint of this whole area. It's supposed to be spectacular. But then to get to the lagoon, you just walk down from there into the lagoon area. So I don't know what the low season is, but perhaps they have like the mud bath and everything in the cave. Let's see what we can find over there. Pretty intense. Just to get to the head of the trail up the mountain, you go through this, which is amazing. All right, so as the sign says, this is a strenuous, muddy, and slippery climb, and from what I'm told, it's about an hour in, and to the lagoon and everything like that. So I guess I better get started. Wow, it's really kind of hard to describe the view. It's really amazing. And you look at all the mountains that just pop right out of the sea, just come straight up off the beach. And then you come down and you've got this epic, just amazing beachfront over here. And then even further in, you can see the tops of all of the palm trees, and they're just kind of shining all silver in the sun. And below those are the chalets and the beach resort hotels and things, and people are just kind of meandering on the beach, and the tide has long since gone out a couple hours ago. It's really something. This is just, wow, really just kind of paradise. Now, the drop-off's really something too. Scary. So here I am, scaling down to the lagoon, and it is crazy slippery. It's just muck. Really dangerous. When you come here, be very careful. Step on the limestone, the edged limestone. Otherwise, you will be slipping and sliding all over the place. It's a rainforest on an island. It can't get more humid. But man, it is impossibly beautiful. Just these limestone, I don't even know what you call them, cliff faces, I guess, just jutting up on all sides. It's like a cavern. You're walking through this corridor that goes straight down, just straight down to this thing. There's several tiers. Once you get to the flat portion here where it's all muddy, and you go probably 4 different tiers all the way down to the bottom, and then you can actually see the water from up here. It's straight out of Hollywood. It's like somebody designed this set to be impressive and staggeringly beautiful. Straight out of the Goonies. This is intense. There's a huge echo! Woo! You can tell the sound just like reverberates all the way around this, like basically vertical tunnel. That's all it is. You know? A million years ago, a couple of drops chewed their way through the top of a mountain. Here we are, eons later, and we've got a giant swimming pool. It is muddy as hell, but I'm not kidding. It is straight out of the Goonies. Like Spielberg and Zemeckis, I'm talking to you. You boys need to come on out now. Make a movie. Goonies 2. I see it happening right here. I think you boys should test your mettle. Come on out here. Be inspired. It is muddy and filthy and it looks like a giant pool of vomit, but it's still awesome. Little couple of drapes over here, maybe a love seat. Could do a lot with this place. Oof. You know, when one finds themselves in a cavern of unimaginable beauty, but also filled to the brim with mud, there's really only one thing to do. Take a mud bath. Oh, this is gonna be weird. Oh.
Dates vary on the culminating day of Phuket's Vegetarian Festival, but most often start at the end of the first week of October, last for about a week, and unfold in something of an all-out citywide noise fest, with some pretty scary personal prostrations. Also called the Nine Emperor Gods Festival, this is just as much a celebration of the Tao gods as it is of personal will and sacrifice. The name is not just confusing, given its lack of apparent food-based activities, it's shrouded in Chinese historical culture. In fact, the only reason that it came to be known as a vegetarian festival was because of the fasting that goes on during the 9th lunar month of the Chinese calendar. Everything that followed the originating legend is related in some way to fasting on a meatless diet. Made more famous for its extreme activities, this celebration goes something like this. For weeks preceding the event, the town prepares for the influx of both tourists and devotees. They plan and delineate the procession and block it off to motorized traffic. They prepare floats to be carried during the parade and bring them from all over the island to be stored in their corresponding temple until the day of the event. The 9 days preceding the event are, for the devotees, the crux of the event, which are spent at the temple chanting, reciting prayers, and keeping a strict diet. The Thai word for these brave souls is Ma Song, which refers to the use of the body by the spirits. Ma in Thai means horse. It also means mother and a few other words depending on the intonation. Ma Song therefore refers to the spirit controlling the devotee as would the rider of a horse. On the morning of the parade, participants spend their breakfast hours in meditation at one of the several temples, summoning the spirits of the 9 Tao gods. This part of the festival is closed to the public, but make no mistake, it's the only part that is not fully visible and open to the collective eye of a veritable sea of blinking cameras. While meditation is taking place, the parade floats are prepared on the floor level of the temples. Each float has been painstakingly constructed and is carried by the devotee's family or general volunteers. This all happens before sunrise. Just before the break of dawn, however, an orator sounds the bell that announces the first of the morning's rituals. Down from its hoist on the temple's flagpole come the 9 candles that have been burning all night in the 8 days preceding it. They are delicately removed from their perch, and one by one they are refilled, their wicks trimmed, and they're replaced to continue burning throughout the day. Oil is then brought all around the temple to maintain the ceremonial flames throughout the grounds. One might think that this would be something reserved for people other than officiants of the coming ceremony, but as it turns out, this is something of an honor to the gods to maintain their celebratory flames. After the temple's oil reserves are refilled, the 9 sacramental candles are raised back up to overlook the procession, invite the beckoned gods, and open the gates to scores of adventurous onlookers. This time, more than even the sight of the dead-eyed invokees traipsing down the streets with pierced bodies, is not for the faint of heart. But there's plenty of that to come. Which reminds me, I should warn my viewers that the coming clips are not only gruesome, but uncensored. The first allowed to enter the temple are the Thai and Chinese patrons who are giving thanks for good fortune and praying for their loved ones. They also commemorate important events like a new job or having a baby, or generally celebrating their time with friends and family. Almost all patrons at the event wear white clothing, which is seen as a symbol of purity that welcomes the gods to the event without fear of encountering harsh or obtrusive colors. Louder colors will be found in the parade, but personal efforts and penitence are among the festival's higher priorities. With the positive vibes flowing through the air like the plumes of circling incense smoke sifting up to the ceiling, it's time to bring on the devotees. These people, having offered themselves as mediums to the incoming gods, are most often males in their 20s. A great deal of them have large areas of their bodies tattooed, and they all seem somehow unified in a shared lack of interest in the onslaught of cameras and foreign faces. That said, devotees can be male or female, young or old, transgender, gay, bi, lesbian, and other orientations. And youth is only limited to a parent's permission to be involved in the piercing and flagellation processes. In fact, about the only qualifying factor I could discern throughout the event is that you must come from a Thai or a Chinese heritage. In an extreme show of praise and penitence, the devotees lance their cheeks with an impressive array of objects. In some cases, the lance is left in the skin and generally has an attached fabric of any number of colors, representing any number of gods or other factors. In other cases, the spike is used to open a hole somewhere on the face or body through which another object can be inserted. In most cases, it's an object that proves metal, like the blade of a sword or a shard of glass or a long silver spear. Fruit or vegetables are often pierced right along with the devotee and marched proudly down the road in the parade. The piercing process has developed as an important part of the festival's ritual. It not only offers the sacrificial offering to the gods in the form of pain, if seen favorably by the gods, the wound will not only be painless, given that the medium is overtaken by the deity who mutes their pain, it will also heal quickly and leave no scars. If the wound scars over, the devotee can understand this to mean that their wishes may not be answered, but their devotion was the first step in the right direction to balance out their karmic debt to the universe. Flagellation is not limited to piercing the cheeks. Whipping, stabbing, slashing, striking oneself with an axe, skinning and burning, striking oneself with all manner of Bronze Age artillery, impaling one or more people with the same object, and even removing tissue altogether are all part of the game. This can be done to any part of the body, but generally includes slashing of the limbs, stomach, back, and head, but most commonly center around the mouth and tongue. Items commonly used include syringes, swords, machetes, axes, blades of glass, and even household items intent on adding a sense of creativity to the mix. But it doesn't stop there. The festival includes hot-coal dancing, burning with fire, detonating explosives near the body, and even walking up a ladder of bladed rungs. The celebration also takes place in Malaysia, Myanmar, and Indonesia. New and unaware visitors might see all this activity as strange, but its history draws from both tradition and legend. The myth, as told to me by the governor of Phuket, places its origin in Thailand. However, Malays say it's inspired by the celebration of Thaipusam, which I documented in my 2013 film Travel Geek Documentary Malaysia. I'm sure Burmese and Indonesians have their own derivative versions as well. As the story goes, a troupe of Chinese actors fell ill while giving a performance in Thailand in the 17th century. 3 were gravely sick, but instead of seeking medical attention, they sought the penitent path in hopes of forgiveness of the gods. Piercing, beating, and even starving themselves, each of the actors were granted divine intervention and survived. From that day on, the tradition has been to offer similar sacrifices and rituals in order to be blessed by the visiting emperor deities. Which god embodies which person is largely left to chance. Once in a trance and under the control of the visiting deity, the god can then bless eager onlookers through the channeling medium. Because of this, scores of white-clad worshippers pray and offer fruits and vegetables to the devotees so that they can sanctify the offering. Once blessed, the patrons can consume the food or drink with their loved one, donate it, give it to an ailing relative, and so on. Prior to the parade, stands are set up along the road with fruit and tea. Larger tables, however, are normally reserved for dignitaries and noted members of the community. My seat was next to the mayor of Phuket, Samjai Sawantapana, who was a wonderful source of information and clarity on the event. She happens also to have overseen the Bureau of Education, so she was already near and dear to my heart. My thanks goes to her for her gracious attention. As the procession moves down the crowded streets, the devotees, accompanied by 2 or more caretakers, visit each table to bless the displayed offerings. This can include waving a cup of tea over the smoke of the incense and handing it to a bowing patron, or it could include simply taking a piece of fruit from the table and handing it to a patron. In some cases, the devotees touch the heads of the visitors that come up to them or shower them with holy water. In other cases, the devotee's caretaker carries a basket of candy that can be handed out to children. They also hand out prayer flags and little pieces of yarn to tie around your wrist. At the end of the procession, the crowd sifts into the final shrine, and the devotees enter their last phase of homage before leaving the ritual and regaining agency over their entranced bodies. A line of bowed heads forms in front of the devotees as they bless the patrons with prayers and holy water. Then it's off to the altar, cracking whips to ward off any remaining demons, a drum-driven frenzied dance of the deity's show of human piety to the order of the Tao, and the sacramental offering of incense. Onlookers make their final prayers and why the devotees before the devotees return to the spirit realm.
So here we are at the end of the procession. The vegetarian festival parade, it goes all day long. It starts at 4 a.m. with the men piercing themselves. Basically what they call that is invoking the gods. There are 9 Yao gods that are worshipped during this ceremony. And through the parade and through the other celebrations that go on all day, ending here. And because there are 9 different days of the celebration, they usually pick a different temple for each night of that celebration. I think this year it ends on a Tuesday. Here right in the middle of it, so I can't really tell you if it's larger than this normally, but this is pretty big. In any case, the mediums who have invoked the gods and who are tranced out and kind of wiggling around and usually have proof of like facial scarring and things like that, they come here for their final showdown, and as a god or as a medium being possessed by the god, they come up to this front area, they bring the god with them from the temple, they come up to the end of the procession here, and then they bless people who want good luck for the new year, if they want pregnancy, if they're hoping for more money in their position at work, or maybe they're hoping for employment or something like that. Most of the time though, they're actually praying for someone else, wishing someone else in their family or friend community good luck. It's an amazing celebration. It's definitely more than the Sunday afternoon sermon. It's pretty wild.
Devotees claim to enter into this state after their 9 days of dedicated and guided meditation, all in an effort to invoke the spiritual inhabitants. Once in this trance, they often engage in head shaking, speak in strange tongues, or just bark rudimentary sounds. Enter into a seemingly uncontrolled and patternless dance, run in a staggered cadence, and a variety of other inexplicable activities. It's not clear who's in more control, the god or the man, given that many of the participants are responsive and even communicative during the event. What is clear is that there's no way to prove whether or not this is a true act of mass human possession or a theatrical display based on the tradition's origin. Whatever the case, the legend's very roots are firmly planted in theater, literally, which drums up questions of authenticity in the affair. Was it seraphic power or saintly performance? There's also something of a belief that the emperor gods are most easily evoked through bodies or channels of water. The fact that Phuket is surrounded by the Andaman Sea may offer credit to its popularity on the southwest coastal province. It also doesn't hurt that the Chinese lineage is strong here, comprising more than 35% of the population. In Thai, the word je means sacredly prepared food, but vendors display the yellow and red lettered sign outside their shops to indicate that their food is vegetarian, a very Asian gimmick intended to take full advantage of the influx of potential eager street-side customers. This might drum up further questions as to why and how such an affair actually began. Was it to prove that faith trumps physiology, or to sell a few more tickets to the show? I can say that as a global documentarian who's been to places on Earth where mythology and reality tread a fine line, and as a firm man of science, backed up by more than 20 years of post-secondary academia, leading to 3 undergraduate degrees, 1 graduate degree, and 1 terminal postgraduate degree, I've never seen anything that couldn't be explained by scientific theories and laws, which, to me, is the dividing factor separating the natural from the supernatural. And there's certainly not anything that would suggest that these people aren't just putting on a show to advance the interests in commerce or personal attention. After all, the human vessel who volunteers to host the gods as but to touch a piece of fruit, and it's thought to have been touched by the gods themselves. Who wouldn't want to be a god for a day? Even if it means acting like you're channeling the unintelligible language of long-dead ancestors. Who wouldn't want to wear a crown like King Midas, and everything you touch is treated like gold? Like the very water flung from your fingertips is treated like heavenly rain. Like the juice from the fruit that touches your palm is treated like the nectar of the gods. And then there's the notion of exposure. There's certainly nothing wrong with the gods pausing for pictures. Social media is a crucial endeavor, after all, for sharing the love in the afterlife. Does this kind of thing enhance one's health or promote luck or wealth in any measurable way? Definitely not. In fact, it's not likely that you'll find a reputable doctor that advocates slicing open your skin and exposing the wound to a sweaty, dusty, raucous crowd of tens of thousands of unwashed hands as a way to acquiring better health. If anything, the ensuing infection and medical bills do the exact opposite. But I'm sure infections are just seen as unlucky or a rejected sacrifice, where those who escape the infections are thankful to the almighty gods for their glorious gift of divine approval. As for the history of the event, Asians aren't the first ones to adopt such a menacing practice. The Roman Catholic Church employed bloodletting and torture for hundreds of years to rid the body of evil spirits. Some Shia Muslims still practice Tadbir, a massive parade commemorating the Battle of Karbala and their devotion to Imam Hussein, beating and slashing their chests and backs with chains. As late as the 13th century, an extremist separatist group of the Tractarian movement, calling themselves the Flagellants, thought that the evangelical Anglican Communion was growing too soft in their torturous efforts. A far-right conservative German professor of theology by the name of Martin Luther, and also the founder of the Lutheran Church, regularly employed flagellation to the point of launching the Protestant Reformation and forever dividing Western Christianity. As far as we know, humans are the only species to have invented a god, so the gratification alone that's paid to the human ego for being Krishna, Christ, or Allah, even for a few hours, seems clear that it's worth a lot of suffering seen as sacrifice and pain flaunted as piety. But none of any of that does anything to overshadow the fact that this is an intense and amazing event, and I'd simply have less of a cultural experience if not for its existence. So one can make any scientific argument they want. They can call up the history of division and violence inherent in the history of this practice. They can even claim that it's a deviant, devilish, offensive collection of activities. But this festival would suffer nonetheless for it. Believe in the embodiment of modern-day myths or discount them entirely. But there's no denying the energy in the crowd and the ritualistic immensity of it all.